We need motivation in order to make a positive change. But most people I come across don't have some burning passion or desire that drives them. So how do we deliver a result when someone isn't that engaged with their goals? Time to think like an investor. The dream would be to have a business that we deliver massive value that other people are extremely grateful to receive. That way, we grow by making other people happy, right? We don't want to work in a monotonous business, do we? Because then our progress will stall and we're going to work and live in boredom. And so what we'd like to do is create a wow experience for our clients where they are so happy with a result that we've delivered. Unfortunately, this is only straightforward with like a really motivated client. Because if someone's motivated and there's a big gap between where they are now and where they want to go, and there's energy behind it, that means there's more energy to put into the process of trying to achieve a result. But I'm sure you'd agree most of the world and the people you come across aren't like viscerally motivated to move towards some goal. Most people don't really set their goals at all. But if we fail to have powerful and meaningful engagements with those people who don't necessarily seem motivated, we might end up in that business we were trying to avoid all along. The one where it's monotonous and everyone just clocks in and out of work because society told us to. After I've connected a little bit with a new prospect, I got to know them, one of the main questions I ask to segue into more of a planning conversation is, what inspired you to reach out to me specifically today? What got us here? A lot of the time they say something to the effect of,
honestly, I was told this is something that's kind of important to do. I don't really know why. My parents said I should do it, and so I'm kind of just here to check a box.
And even in my existing book of clients, I have clients where maybe I didn't do the best job of getting them engaged early on. And so now maybe in an annual review meeting or when we have a project, I might ask them, how do you feel about moving forward with this recommendation? They might go,
I don't know, like, yeah, sure, like, maybe, like, if you think that's best, like, I heard this other person tell me I should maybe do this, I mean.
And everything just seems like a question and they seem so unsure. Whereas the driven and motivated person is like, yes, let's do it, let's start, that sounds great, we're gonna move forward towards that. There's a difference in initiative between people who have a hard set goal they're moving towards and people who just aren't as goal focused. And so it's clear which ones are easier to help drive a result for. And so they come in many shapes and sizes, but in total, let's just categorize these people as box checkers. They're here to check a box because society told them they should have, or maybe their parents or they inherited money and they're now supposed to go find someone to help them with their money. And whereas the goal-focused people might be very receptive to like a raw motivational financial planning, let's build wealth talk, these people are much less receptive to that. So what if there was a quick and painless way to create that same level of connection or engaged movement towards a goal with a box checker like we did for someone who's very motivated? If we did that, we might be able to access the entire universe of ideal clients rather than just dealing with the third of them who really know what they want. The best way I've found to do this is through something we call anti-goals. And I don't mean asking their aunt about their goals. I mean anti-goals, like opposite of goals. When we fail to be motivated by a picture of heaven, some great, magnificent future that we strive towards, maybe it means we're looking in the wrong direction. Maybe we need to feel motivated and inspired by a picture of hell. Now, this isn't about instilling fear. This is about finding a catalyst for progress. And what progress is essentially just moving towards something good or moving away from something bad. And we get to define what those goods and bads are. Have you ever had it where you were in the shower and you were home alone and you heard like a crazy noise and now you're like naked and vulnerable and your mind starts overthinking about how terrible things could possibly get? Or have you ever had it where you got really anxious, so you had a panic attack and you got in this cycle of thoughts where everything was just so unbelievably negative? These feelings of always kind of being on guard, it's our brain's mechanism of protecting us from danger. And our brain is a lot better at protecting us from danger than it is at filling our mind with positive, beautiful images all day long. So instead of thinking about what is the ideal future, we might want to think about what is the worst possible future. Here's the problem. If we ask,
what are your anti-goals?
that is a complete dead end. We need an incredible question in order to pull out the real answers. So here's a few questions I've experimented with layering into conversations, lightheartedly of course, because we're talking about their version of hell. Instead of asking, what are you trying to avoid? I might ask, what's the least favorite part of your week? When I think about what are your anti-goals, what are you trying to avoid, for myself, I kind of get lost. But when I think about what's my least favorite part of my week, it's probably when I get in a mental loop of comparing myself to more successful people, doing my laundry, and being forced to stay out and drink way too late. I guess my life's pretty good. I might ask something like, what dream do you feel like you've already written off because it seems unrealistic? And for me, that might be being on the Canadian men's Olympic volleyball team or achieving a level of success that a lot of my close friends have. And I might ask something like, well, if we sat down in 10 years from now, what situation would you have to be living through for life to feel like a failure? And now these are hard questions, but I think people are more open to answering them than you might think. For me, my answer to that question would be something like being stuck in a job I hate on someone else's deadlines because I'm in a mountain of debt that I have to pay back. Something like that. Or every single person I love and admire hates me. Those would be some pretty brutal situations, some anti-goals that I'm trying to avoid. Now from there, it doesn't have to be our goal to create some financial projection or product solution to solve these anti-goals. It's more about analyzing it and reading through the answers and figuring out what is this person really after. Once we have that, we can now frame our solution and we can frame our planning through the lens of the result that they want so that we can create motivation for these people who don't come to the table with intrinsic motivations. For example, if I can analyze my own answers that I just gave you, maybe we can come to some insights, and I'm winging this, so bear with me. What was the first thing I said? What did I say? I said, what is the least favorite part of your week? And for whatever reason, the one that sticks out to me is doing laundry. And so, to me, why? You can ask why after all these questions. It's something repetitive that you do over and over that doesn't accumulate any equity. What you're doing is you're doing work every week just to fend off entropy. It's maintenance. You're never actually getting ahead by doing laundry. You're just taking care of it so that you can take care of it again next week and take care of it again next week. So I guess what I'm getting at here is if I set laundry as something that was my least favorite part of my week, what I might be able to derive from that is I'm the kind of person who just hates starting from zero. I hate restarting and having to build up. That's why I wasn't good in sales. At the beginning of the month when I started back at 0 deals, I was unmotivated because I just worked as hard as I could for 30 days and now I'm back to 0. And so this idea of always having to reset, like laundry, hate it. Anti-goal. I also said when I feel pressure to stay out late and drink and when I compare myself to other people. So there's a social element there, something where I want to have high status and be accepted and fit in, but at the same time I have quirks about me that don't want to do what other people want to do. And so there's an anti-goal, which actually aligns with the one I said about the job where I was stuck because I was in a mountain of debt and I was working on someone else's deadline. There's a theme here about freedom, about doing something on my own deadlines, but still at the same time wanting to be accepted. So that's kind of complicated, but there's an idea emerging out of this. I also talked about how the people I admire and love would hate me in return. Something like that. And in my final question, I also talked about how I had written something off that seemed unrealistic. One of them was physical, which is volleyball, fair enough. One of them is attaining a level of success my close friends have. And so there's this idea of having people you admire and love and not wanting to be rejected by them, but also having given up on this idea of progressing at the same rate or catching up. So there's a big social piece to this, which is
so being desired by people you find admirable, but also this idea of wanting to be free and being an enigma that is outside of the social norms.
And that desire for freedom where I'm on someone else's deadline. So I'm kind of getting a picture of what it is that I really don't want. And if I can just now invert that, I have an idea of what I don't want, an idea of what I do want, and my future goals were never actually a requirement to start this discussion. The idea of having some goal I'm working towards wasn't even an input into the formula. It was more talking about what are your anti-goals and working from there. But it's one of the ways that I found to engage one of these box checkers who seems totally disinterested from the process. Now, I know what you might be thinking, and so Josh, what if this doesn't work? Like, what if trying to figure out anti-goals leads us nowhere? Well, I'll ask you this. If the client can't define a picture of heaven that excites them, and these questions can't even create any breakthrough answer in terms of what they're running away from, this might not be a client. In reality, a client opportunity or a business opportunity exists when there's a gap between current situation and desired situation. When there is a gap, there is demand for us to help someone move somewhere. That's where we can apply our specialty. We can do our best to get them to that goal. But if you've booked a meeting with a lead and you walk into the room and it's the Buddha, and that's who you're trying to sell, you're gonna have a really tough time because there is no difference between current state and desired state. They are enlightened. They have achieved nirvana. They have no desires, nothing they're running away from. This probably isn't a client opportunity. In my view, that's where you have a great conversation about life, maybe make a friend, but from a business perspective, move on and go find someone who has a gap between where they are and where they want to go. So anyways, guys, whether you're a new or aspiring financial advisor, keep this mental model front of mind, this one about anti-goals. If you can't really engage someone, maybe give it a shot. See what it is that they're running away from by asking incredible questions that don't step on their toes. If you enjoyed this video or got any value whatsoever, as always, make sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on post notifications for more videos just like this one every single week. Until next time.